Theaters are known for their ghosts. The year was 1919 as we discover rising star Gideon Goosebury, who on opening night was killed by a 300-pound sandbag that fell on him from the rafters, which created an urban legend. Now, legend has it, if you don't sweep away Gideon's energy from the stage every night, well, he'll haunt your production. As Oliver studies Loretta's secret journal, he notices that her F and her P's look very similar to the ones left on Ben's mirror. When you make the stage a part of your life, it can be hard to escape your personal ghost too. As Charles is alone in his apartment with President McKinney after Joy has left him, we see Mabel get to knock on the door from Howard, who's here to confess that he's killed Ben. As our crew hunts down a ghost in this episode, we see that their personal demons forced them to break up. Well, hopefully this breakup doesn't last too long because, well, we got a murder to solve. Welcome back to my channel, MovieFiles. Elliot back with our weekly only murders in the building discussions, and this time we're breaking down episode 6 titled Ghostlight. As we learn of the ghost that haunts the theater, Mabel, Oliver, and Charles has a major fight, which if you ask Charles, spoiler alert, this fight causes them to go their separate ways. We'll be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler breakdown, but first, let me know what you all thought about this episode. Let me know the Easter eggs, deeper meanings, clues you all took away, and of course your major theories. And what do you all think about the crew breaking up in this episode? And how do you feel about Oliver choosing Loretta over the rest of the team? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, as we gotta figure out who killed Ben and what's the deal with this ghost. Full spoilers ahead. Now, Howard's confession is that he didn't sweep on opening night and he blames Ben's death on the ghost of Gideon Goosebury. He says that he meant to sweep that night, but when he went to get the broom out of KT's office, it was locked and he heard some strange noises from within. Y'all don't forget about my theory on KT a couple weeks ago, and I have more thoughts on her a little bit later in today's breakdown, but Howard doesn't stop there. While sweeping in preparation for the crew to make their return, he claims he saw the ghost of Gideon in his signature cap and red coat, which happens to be the same look and description of Dr. C from last week's episode. But spoiler alert, as the guys learn of Mabel's new situation with Talbot added to the team, as they have a sidebar piecing together Dr. C going to the theater to cover his tracks. Now, a noticeable little detail in this scene here, as it's mentioned that Oliver has a new tooth, which Mabel describes it as being as bright as a headlight. Now, I have a feeling that will be a callback at some point in this season, and that bright tooth might end up saving somebody. As Charles fills the team in with his recent breakup with Joy, which he seems to be handling pretty well because he claims he's done this same song and dance before, as Mabel notices that Oliver is now all of a sudden interested in his case for the first time since believing that someone from his production could be the murderer. But we all know as an audience, he's now interested because he's hoping to prove that Loretta isn't the killer. Now, Talbot will not be tagging along, as finally the dynamic 3, which I've been mentioning before how important the number 3 has been so far this season, they will be working together to investigate the theater, but unfortunately this team up won't be lasting much longer. As the crew arrives with Howard, and they notice immediately strange things with the ghost light going off all of a sudden, which is always supposed to be on, as Oliver suggests they split up to do their own thing while he can do his side mission, but Mabel dismisses that and she won't allow it, and boom, out of nowhere, 2 sandbags fall and almost kills Charles, which this show is telling us that something bad might be happening to our Charles, guys, because go back to last season when they had to fake his death in the finale. You think about the last episode, Zaz telling him that some people wish that he died instead of for Ben. I know Oliver's the one with the heart issue right now, but what if they're setting up that Charles might not make it to the end of this season? Or with the 2 bags falling and one being left up, is that like a symbolism of maybe Charles and Oliver dies, leaving Mabel alive and by herself? Again, the importance of the number 3 being brought up yet again. KT and Howard are responsible for looking into why those bags fell, giving our crew a chance to look around. Did anyone notice the Act 1, Page 1 that KT was highlighting and she had to get rid of? Were there any significant clues on that page? Because obviously it's a page of the script, and I noticed that she highlighted something in green and orange. Now, I couldn't make out whose lines those were, but I know for a fact that it isn't a coincidence that the camera intentionally panned over to her doing that. Let me know what you all were able to piece out. I wasn't able to zoom in again to see what those actual lines meant and if they have some significance to this story. Now, meanwhile, we see Mabel sees the attendance sheet and she wants to look at each cast member's signature to compare to the message left on Ben's mirror. But yet again, Oliver tries to make sure Loretta isn't noticed as a prime suspect. Which, on that note, which one do you all lean towards more? Do you all personally think that deep down Oliver believes that Loretta might have killed Ben? Or is he just so in love that he doesn't want to believe it? Let me know your thoughts on where you stand on Oliver right now. But I do appreciate how Charles calls out Mabel's short-sightedness of allowing Talbot to see their murder board. But I also love the parallels between Oliver and Mabel, both allowing their guards to be down because of their romantic interests. We see Mabel gets a little bit personal by saying that she has a better track record of picking people, unlike Charles, who we know that was a low blow because she was talking about Jan, as she also says that Talbot has done more in these 2 days than Charles has done in this whole entire case. Meanwhile, Oliver sneaks out. Charles is looking for water for his fish, leaving Mabel alone yet again. Now, I've lost count so far this season, but this has been a theme that the guys have kept leaving Mabel alone to figure this case out by herself. Now, I know that this just gives her more reason to take up Cinna's offer, which we'll talk about at the end of this episode, but maybe this is more evidence that maybe the guys won't make it through this entire season. Charles finds a place for his new fish and he gets trapped inside this closet and almost flushes the fish down the toilet, but accidentally turns on a smoke machine, leaving him to deal with that for most of the second half of this episode. Also, I do want to add, I don't think it's a coincidence that the fish name is the same name of the 25th president of the United States, which is McKinney, which, by the way, was assassinated. I don't know if there's any correlation going back to my Charles might die this season, but checking in with Oliver, who's comparing the F and the P, and he hears a noise in the background and he follows that noise. He finds this secret lair and is taken down by this mysterious person who ends up being revealed to be Jerry, who we're meeting for the first time this season. Now, we learn from Jerry he's been pretending to actually be the ghost of Gideon, not Dr. C, and he's been the one causing all those lights going off. But I do want to point out the hat and that red jacket, that seems to me to be a clue about there might be a connection with Jerry and Dr. C, because I don't think it's a coincidence they have the exact same description, the exact same look of Dr. C from last week. Now, we see Jerry killing a rat in front of Oliver, which may be a sign of Oliver's current situation. Now, I just happened to Google, what does it mean when you kill a rat, or in particular when you dream about killing a rat? When you look it up, it represents anxiety, obstacles in life's path, and insecurities surrounding financing and personal relationships. If you guys ask me, that sounds exactly what Oliver is going through right now. As Jerry tells Oliver about Loretta's violent temper, he fills him in on what he saw, what went down opening night. He recalls them rehearsing their fight scene, and he claims that something set her off, which resorted to her calling him a pig, and Oliver learns that Charles actually punched Ben that same night. Checking in with Katie and Howard, she wasn't the one who locked her office door, which I don't think was ever addressed in this episode, but it might be important for future episodes. But Katie knows all about Gideon, as we learn that Howard's secret dream at one point of his younger days was becoming an actor, but his dreams were crushed by his own mother. And we also learned that Katie wanted to be a director. Stick with me here on this wild theory. We know that Ben hired a cinematographer in Talbot, but what if he also hired KT as his director? Because I wasn't really thinking too much into this scene between KT and Howard and bonding over Gideon, him finding his voice, yada yada yada. But would this be a perfect match to have Ben finding his cinematographer to fake pretend his death and have a director set it all up? But what if things just went too far and he accidentally was killed in making this movie? We'll get into KT a little bit more, but that's kind of where my head's at right now with KT and this whole Howard scene. But going back to it all, as KT gives Howard the only way to banish Gideon is to invite him on stage, he recites his monologue from the night that he died, and they have a little bit of a moment. But again, I think that that moment between them is very significant. Check in with Mabel, who finds Talbot, who's followed Jonathan to the theater, and they end up following him. Now they find Jonathan with a bag of pills, and he confesses that he's been very stressed out over taking Ben's lead role, and he needed something to take off the edge, which ended up leading him to Dr. C. Dr. C gave him the same prescription he did Ben, which was called the Leading Man Cocktail, and Jonathan didn't want this burden of actually being the lead. So right now we can remove him being the killer off the list for now, but it's very important to note that Ben was on a lot of drugs on this cocktail on the night that he died. There was a dash of meth that didn't appear on his autopsy. Does it mean that maybe my theory that I mentioned a couple weeks ago of him having a twin brother is still valid? And maybe Dr. C killed the real actor Ben with this whole cocktail. He ended up messing with his autopsy to cover up his tracks because he gave him that prescription and he doesn't want to lose his doctor license. I think Dr. C is still someone we should be keeping an eye out for. But wrapping up the episode, we see Oliver gets advice from Jerry on making a decision on what he should do with Loretta. As Charles finally makes it out of the closet, he and Mabel chase down Oliver into Ben's dressing room, where Oliver is just losing his mind at this point. He's made his choice. He's siding with his love, Loretta, not killing Ben. So he begins to wipe away the evidence. Oliver, what the hell are you doing, my man? As he tells Mabel about Charles punching Ben, as they get into this argument over Oliver's chaotic production, and then Oliver throws out that Charles' career was on the rocks. They have a fight. We see Charles ultimately quits the play, and now Oliver brings all this heat to Mabel when Loretta is brought up. Now we see Oliver completely erases the pig message, and he won't allow Mabel's investigation to jeopardize his career moment with this play. As Mabel is fed up with what's going on right now, she wants the guys to no longer be a part of this case. She is determined to find Ben's killer because we know how important Ben was to her when she was grieving the death of her father. Now Howard believes he's done his job with Gideon, and Katie applauds him, which seemed very odd because we know Jerry wasn't there messing with them, as we know he was the one behind the Gideon ghost. But we see KT might be the one that's up to this. That smile at the end seemed very devious to me. I think she might be directing something that we don't know about quite yet. But we officially have Team Tomei, which I'm naming Talbert and Mabel Tomei. That's their shipping name. As Charles is alone with his fish, and Oliver is determined to get his moment to shine in the spotlight. As we see the curtains closing on this episode, there are 3 stick figures that were made by Jerry. Again, 3 is everywhere this season, and I am sticking with my theory that there are 3 people involved in this murder. Which, speaking of, let's take a look at the suspect list. So far we've removed Kimber, we've removed Joy, now we can remove Jonathan. So that leaves us with KT, Tobert, Loretta, and Dickie. Now for Tobert, you all know I don't trust the guy. He's been lying to her this entire season. I'm referring to Mabel, and I honestly think with him being hired by Ben, he's still doing something behind the scenes that might be tied to Ben's twin. So I do not trust him, ladies and gentlemen. And I said it last week, we've already gotten 2 fake outs with Mabel's love interest with Alice and Oscar. I think the third time's a charm. I think he has something to do with it. Dickie, I'm still kind of fused about Dickie. He hasn't been around for the last 2 episodes, but I've seen you all's comments about maybe Loretta being Dickie's son, or if I believe too much in that theory, but I don't think it's a coincidence that she has this type of appreciation for him that doesn't make sense because they just met. So there is definitely some type of history between Dickie and Loretta, which, speaking of Loretta, mentioned it a couple times. Why is she only in every other episode? Is it almost too obvious that she's involved? Last but not least, KT. I mentioned it. I think that she has been up to something, and now it being revealed that she's wanted to be a director this whole time. I wouldn't be surprised if she got that opportunity being hired by Ben, or maybe Ben's twin brother. That's where I'm at with my suspect list. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I love the tension. I love seeing our crew together, but I hate seeing them breaking up. I don't know how long they're going to be broken up. I think it's going to take something big to happen for them to come together. And like I mentioned in this video, Charles maybe being killed, Oliver maybe having some health issues. We know his heart's not good. He might be off the board, and that might force them to come together again. I really thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I love the idea of the ghost haunting these characters, their past haunting them. Very good theme, executed perfectly in this episode. But hey, that's my thoughts on the episode. Make sure to share yours in the comments below, as we do every week. Spam the comments with your thoughts, your theories, your Easter eggs, your deep deeper meanings in the comments below. And who was your MVP this episode? Who was your favorite performer? What was your favorite moment? Let's have those discussions in the comments below. Hey, that's my overall thoughts and my theories of this episode. Make sure to leave yours in the comments below. And if you all support the video and stuck around to this point, put in the comments right now, hashtag Ghostlight. You all are great. Hope you're staying safe. Before we wrap things up, consider hitting the like button, sharing my breakdown, leaving your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribing to the channel. Hope you all had a good time. I will catch you all on the next breakdown.